Hey everybody, my name's Emma Sutphin. I am the Assistant Giving Garden Manager, and I also work for Stonewall Apiary up in Versailles, Connecticut.
And where are we right now, Emma?
Right now we are on Coogan Farm. The entire company, Stonewall Apiary, the business manages 275 hives throughout southeastern Connecticut. So these are some of our hives that we have on the Coogan Farm. The bees are of a benefit to the giving garden. But really what the bees are more foraging on is a lot of the flowers that are flowering on trees, and then a lot of the invasive species too, actually. So right now, autumn olive and mugwort, they are foraging on and getting, they will be getting their nectar source from. So, yeah.
So happy World Bee Day, everyone. As Emma just mentioned, we are at the Nature Center's Coogan Farm campus, and we are excited because Emma wears a few hats here. So she's going to tell us more about bees. A couple of fun facts to start your day. There are over 20,000 types of bees in the world. And here in the United States, we have about 3,500 species. And here in Connecticut, there's an even smaller amount, but it still might blow your mind. We have 300 species of bees. Now, Emma is going to be talking about honeybees today.
Yes, honeybees. So honeybees are the only bee that produces honey, as their name might suggest. All of these hives, some of them are already starting to collect the spring nectar flow. So just a little bit about a bee hive. These are all called Langstroth hives. It's a specific hive design. It's very easy to manage. Airflow underneath of the hives is easy to capture. So that's one of the reasons that people use this kind of hive. As you can see, so on the bottom, if you look at this purple sort of pink fuchsia box and also this gray box, those are both deeps. So those are holding...
Emma, can you turn to us as you point so we can hear? Sorry.
So those are holding bee brood. So that's where all of the baby worker bees are being produced. You can see a lot of those bees are clustered on the outside of the hive. Very active hive. So that's
we're going to zoom in so you guys can see. They're nice and active this morning, which is exciting. Again, it helps when it's an early, warm day.
And you can also, so almost all of the bees in a hive, in a colony, are female, other than the drones. So that's actually something that surprises people. There is a queen in each of these hives. There are, worker bees in this hive. They're all female. And then there's drone bees that really their only function really is for reproduction. So yeah, this is a lady-dominated kind of part of the natural world. And at different stages in their lives, so worker bees, the young female bees will actually perform a different role than older worker bees, than older female bees. So very evolved, interesting kind of society that bees live in a world that they live in. So yeah, you can kind of think about them operating on a binary response system, honeybees. So whenever you approach a hive, like as you'll see in a minute here, I'm always very slow and calm because it will upset the bees if I start to, throw my hands around and wave my hands around and create a fuss, because that's like what a bear would do or a predator might do if they were approaching or trying to disturb their hive in the wild. So they've evolved to respond to a lot of movement, and the less movement you can make, the slower you can be, the less you'll disturb the bees, and they actually will not get agitated nearly as frequently or readily.
So Emma, I'm really excited. We just had Stuart tune in. So as you introduced him earlier, Stuart is the owner and operator of Stonewall Apiary. And these are hives that we have at the Nature Center's Coogan Farm campus. And why do we have these hives here?
We have these hives, to collect honey, and then also to mutually benefit the giving garden and all of the surrounding campus and all of the flora that is on site here. So the bees will increase our production. They're actually, like I said earlier, a lot less interested in what is in our garden and a lot more interested in what's growing, indigenous and invasive species that are growing on the property. They will forage about, and Stuart is probably going to fact check me on this, I think it's like about a mile around each of their individual hives. They will forage. And actually, at the end of their lives, worker bees will have really, really ragged wings because they've flown such long distances, all really in service of the queen. So everything that a worker bee does is really to service the hive, to service the queen, who's responsible for reproducing and growing the hive. So that's actually what happened in this pink and brown hive that's going on right here with a lot of action at the front. That's called the entrance of the hive. We're pretty sure that that hive swarmed, what was it, last Friday? So when a colony gets too large for the space that it inhabits, the bees will swarm. So the queen that has been the queen, that has been in the hive for a long time, that's been expanding the hive, she will make a decision to vacate the hive and leave some of the bees, some of the workers in the hive, and take some of them with her. So effectively to grow the hive in a different way, right? So she's expanding, she's doubling the size of it, hopefully, and then a virgin queen will remain. So the bees can create a new queen for themselves, all by feeding. So the fate of a larva or an egg, so a baby bee, all depends on their diet. So the queen bee is fed a larger percentage of royal jelly. All bees are fed pollen and royal jelly, but the queen has a higher amount of royal jelly that she's fed. So that's what determines her development into a queen. If we were to look inside of that hive, Stuart wants me to look inside of that hive, but I'm wearing shorts today, which he also gets after me for all the time. What I'm wearing right now is just a veil and a helmet. A lot of people will wear like a full suit, which I probably should start doing since I've been stung so many times. But we're pretty sure that hive swarmed. So if we were to look in there, we would probably see some empty queen cells. So you can tell, you can a lot of the times tell if a colony has swarmed based on the presence of larger sort of circular cells, which are queen cells, indicative of the queen.
Emma, I'm going to back up so that way we can go over to the tree where they swarmed to see a little bit of where they were congregating. If I can back up and not fall over at the same time.
Yeah. Last Friday, I got up on a 12-foot ladder that my uncle brought me, and Stuart taught me how to do all of this. I got up on the ladder with a 5-gallon bucket, and I swept the bees. They were in a much larger cluster than you can see on this cedar tree. They were clustered up. They were actually, somebody came down to the garden and told me that the bees were swarming, and I was like in disbelief because typically, when people say to Stuart or I that they have a swarm, it just means that the bees are active. It's a sunny day. They're out collecting nectar, collecting pollen. But they were, in fact, swarming. So in order to save Stuart a drive down here, I decided to try to capture the swarm myself. It was my first time. So I got on the ladder with a 5-gallon bucket. If you're interested to, we've posted a few different live videos of how to capture a swarm and a few different other things related to beekeeping on the Stonewall Apiary Facebook page.
And we'll have a link for that after so that people can check it out. Because again, it is World Bee Day. So if ever there was an important day to check that out, today is that day.
Yes. So what we have left now, I swept most of the...
It looks kind of like a pine cone from here, but that is actually...
It's pretty small. It's like a baseball size now, but it was much longer. It kind of looked like, I guess for lack of a better comparison, like a beard. So sort of oblong shape. So what I did was I tried to sweep as much of that cluster into the 5-gallon bucket as possible, hopefully getting the queen. So as long as I captured the queen, which I'm pretty positive that I did because the bees haven't left the box that I put them in on Friday, the queen must be in there, because if she wasn't in there, the bees would be actively marching out of the hive and still trying to actively swarm. So what's left up there are bees that haven't quite found their way to the deep, but most of them have made their way into it. So if you want to take a look inside, I was thinking about giving them some nectar, but the nectar flow has started now. Things are starting to bloom. It's a warm week here. We have some warmer weather.
All right, so let's check it out. I will follow you and stay a little bit further back. I also do not have bee allergies, as Beckman did point out. It's a good thing to have that in mind. And again, as Emma pointed out, there's a lot of things that we always have recommendations for people, because a lot of people tend to freak out when they see bees. Bees do not want to sting you. That is not their goal.
They will die if they sting you.
So it is important, as Emma was pointing out earlier, that we stay calm, that we don't mimic some of those predator-like behaviors.
So what I have on the top of the hive here, yep, they're in here. I actually could probably even use another one of these beeps. So what I have on top here is called a queen excluder. This is keeping the queen from leaving the hive, and I've actually put one of these
because
queen
she is
excluders.
much larger than the other bees?
Yes, because her abdomen cannot fit through these slats. So I have one on the bottom and on the top, so you know, hopefully she's in here and she can't get out. They're starting to build waxy comb. They've actually really built this up quite a lot. So that's Friday. So, of course now this isn't lit anymore.
And what was that smoke, if anybody noticed that earlier? It's not that we were on fire. Look at all those wonderful bees.
So you can see them on a frame here.
I'm going to get down so people can see maybe a little bit better. It's a little hard with the direct sun here, guys, but hopefully you can see. Lisa Davies Brock would like to know, how does a bee become a queen? Oh, so, Emma, there's a great vantage point there. Thank you.
So a bee becomes a queen, kind of like what I was saying, based on her diet, based on what she's fed. I'm actually going to switch some of these frames around a little bit. So she gets a higher amount of royal jelly than the other workers do.
And she's not spotted on that particular frame right now.
She's not. I'm trying to find her. She might be on this one over here.
But Jessica Tomlin is very excited. She says this is very cool.
Hi, Jessica. So this is a 10-frame hive. You can purchase all of this equipment from Stonewall Apiary if you're interested. Now they're getting a little bit angry.
So we'll move slow.
See if I can push it a little bit more.
So for anyone that's tuning in, again, it is World Bee Day. There are far more species of bees than most people are aware of. So there are 20,000 types of bees that are in the world. And then here in North America and specific here in the United States, we have, oh, look at that comb.
What I'm trying to look for right now are eggs and larvae so that I know that the queen is in here. I haven't found any yet.
All right, so Janet is chiming in and says she can't get us on live, but we are live. So Janet, you have us. So as I was saying, we have 3,500 types of bees. Those are species of bees here in the United States. And then here in Connecticut, we have about 300 species. Emily Ann is curious as we have all these bees swarming, and I'm going to move very slowly to stay calm. She would like to know, how many times have you been stung?
Oh, God. This week? Last week, twice. 3 times.
All right.
They're starting to get a little bit upset, so I'm going to put this back in a second. But I don't see any larvae.
All right, so I'm going to back up so you can put the top on.
So I'm probably going to have Stuart. So Stuart is an incredible beekeeper. He's a wealth of knowledge. And
actually, Stuart does teach classes for the Nature Center. They start every January. So that is a great time of year to learn all about what you need to know for beekeeping at home. So if you guys are interested, stay tuned with us because that is a great resource. Again, that is Stuart Warnecki of Stonewall Apiary. And he is the one that owns and operates the hives that we have here at the Nature Center's Coogan Farm campus.
So the last thing I really wanted to say, which I meant to say earlier, was that so these all hold brood, right? So I was starting to say that these are called deeps. You can see that, as their name might suggest, they're deeper than these, which are called supers. So these are for honey collection. The reason that they're a little bit more shallow is because the bees will pack a lot of honey weight into each of these. So these each hold 10 frames. They can be up to, over 50 pounds each to lift. That's what's going on up here. We have a queen excluder between the deeps where the brood is being laid, and then the super up here where the honey is being collected, just because we don't want the queen to lay any eggs up in the honey, which we're going to be collecting later in the season. And there will be a spring nectar flow and then also a fall nectar flow. So I just spoke to Stuart this morning, and what we're doing this week really is making a lot of splits, so splitting hives, and so that they don't swarm. Like I had said before, if a hive gets too large, they need more space. So a beekeeper will do something like a strategic management, which is called splitting. And then we are also supering up, which is when you put these supers on top of the deep. So many of these hives actually made it through the winter. So, the bees lived through the winter. They're pretty inactive in the winter. And now they're coming back into action to forage this spring. So that's what's happening. And that's kind of the seasonality of beekeeping.
Perfect. So Emily Ann is wondering, how much honey is collected per hive?
It depends on the hive. So you can see the one right with the pink and the gray deeps on the bottom there. I'm trying to think of how much honey Stuart collected last year from all of his hives. It varies. Sometimes every single frame will be filled, so then you'll get over 50 pounds of honey per super.
And that one has 3.
And that one has 3. So on some of these, 150 pounds of honey.
That is a lot.
Which is a lot, yeah. And 275 hives, you can imagine, actually probably over that amount now. So.
And Avery age 8 would like to know, how many eggs can they lay?
The queen? That's a question for Stuart. She's almost constantly laying though. So really the workers, their entire existences, like I was saying earlier, depend on the queen. So if we were to find a queen on, they started to get a little bit of frisky and I didn't have my smoke, which kind of subdues them. If we were to find a queen on one of those frames that in this hive that I opened, she would be laying almost constantly if she was a good queen. And all of the workers are really around her, feeding her, cleaning her, making sure that she's in the best shape so that she can be, fulfill her reproductive potential and continue the lineage of the hive. So.
Well, and the fun thing that I have learned about honey is that not all honey is the same. So honey can take on different flavors depending upon different things in the landscape. So what are some interesting things that you can share with us about honey?
So a buckwheat honey is a lot deeper in color. Clover honey is a lot, it can be sweeter, more aromatic. It's difficult to determine, and control for honey of just, clover or lavender honey. You'll see that sold in stores unless you have a huge lavender farm that's like miles and, hundreds of acres. But right now what the bees are collecting it's a lot of tree. We have our orchards are back in action this year, really blossoming beautifully. So they're probably collecting a lot of apple and pear nectar, and also autumn olive. Sweet pepper bush will be coming soon.
And all of those can give a different flavor.
And all of those kind of have a different flavor. So spring honey and fall honey will taste much different because there will be different seasonal flowers blooming at those different times.
Juliet, age 6, would like to know, how many worker bees are in each hive?
Ooh, I should know that. I don't know the exact number, but I can tell you that the bees that we put into our hives every season, they're called packages. So you'll either start a colony and start your own hive with either a nucleus package, a nucleus colony, or a package, which is like a package of bees. So Stuart goes down every year to Georgia to Wilbanks Apiary, picks up bees and brings them back for our customers and beekeepers in the sort of southeastern Connecticut region and area. So one of those packages is typically 3 pounds of bees, 3 pounds of worker bees. And you can imagine with how small they are that's quite a significant amount of bees. So well over 1,000.
All right. So Haley Sims has some questions on books to get started and classes offered. So as we mentioned, the Nature Center does offer classes that are taught by Stuart of Stonewall Apiary, of which these hives belong. So we will send you some links directly to his Facebook page, his website, and then again, you can stay tuned with us in the later part of this year for classes that we'll teach next January. We also had Arlene chime in that she and her family enjoy walking here at our Coogan Farm campus and enjoy walking by the hives. So for anyone that is tuning in, if you are here in Mystic, you can notice the walkway here that goes up to the Giving Garden. All right, and the pathway. So you can actually walk by and see the hives in person. Just don't touch, but you can admire the bees coming in and out. So everyone, thank you so much for tuning in today. Thank you to Pharma Emma for teaching us all about bees in honor of World Bee Day.
World Bee Day.
Yes. Enjoy celebrating those pollinators, because 1 of every 3 bites of food that we enjoy are pollinated. And we need our honeybees just for that purpose, because they do such a great job for us, as well as those other species of bees that we started to mention. So everyone, thanks for tuning in. We are going to be coming to you live tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. back at the Nature Center to talk all about watersheds. So hopefully you can join us then. Thank you and have a bee-tastic day.